What I'm about to share could change the way you think about headaches, vision changes, and those strange little symptoms that seem too minor to matter. Because when a brain aneurysm gives a warning, it often doesn't look dramatic at first. It looks ordinary, it looks like fatigue, it looks like stress, it looks like a bad morning, a skipped lunch, or one of those days when you say, I just don't feel right. And that is exactly why so many women over 60 miss the danger until the situation turns into a 911 emergency. I'm Dr. Michael Joel, and today we need to talk about the 10 early symptoms of a brain aneurysm, especially the one most people dismiss. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel for clear, life-saving health guidance made especially for older adults and families. And stay with me, because symptom number 7 is the one families overlook all the time. They blame allergies, poor sleep, eye strain, or simply getting older. But I've seen that one symptom show up hours or days before a life-threatening crisis. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to watch for, when to call your doctor, and when to stop everything and call 911 immediately. Now, before we go further, I need to tell you something important, because accuracy matters here. Most brain aneurysms do not cause symptoms while they're small. Many are silent, some are found by accident during a scan for something else. But when an aneurysm gets larger, presses on nearby nerves, starts to leak or ruptures, the body can send warning signs. Those signs may come from the eyes, the face, the neck, the stomach, or the brain itself. And if you don't know that, you may brush them off as a migraine, sinus trouble, stress, dehydration, or age. That misunderstanding is where families lose precious time. Let me tell you about Nancy in Tampa, because her story explains the danger better than any textbook ever could. Nancy was 72, a retired librarian, sharp as a tack, the kind of woman who never missed a birthday card and always remembered everyone's prescription refill date better than they did. One Thursday afternoon, she told her daughter she felt odd. Not sick exactly, just odd. Her daughter thought maybe it was the Florida heat. Nancy thought maybe it was low blood sugar. They both moved on. By early evening, that odd feeling had turned into something much more serious. And when the truth came out, the warning signs had been there all along. Women over 60 need to pay special attention here, because brain aneurysms and the bleeding caused by ruptured aneurysms are seen more often in postmenopausal women than many people realize. Add in high blood pressure, smoking history, family history, or years of vascular wear and tear, and the risk picture changes. That doesn't mean every symptom on this list means you have an aneurysm. Not at all. But it does mean you should stop dismissing sudden neurological symptoms as just stress, or just one of those things. Your body is often far more honest than your assumptions. Let's start with symptom number 10, and this one surprises people. Pain above or behind one eye. I'm not talking about a vague tension headache across the forehead, or that heavy feeling you get after staring at a computer screen. I'm talking about a more focused pressure or pain around one eye, especially if it's new, unusual, and keeps returning. Linda from Columbus told me she felt like someone was pushing a thumb behind her right eye. She thought it was sinus congestion. Then she thought maybe it was one of those aging eye issues people talk about after 65. But that eye pain was not coming from her eye at all. Here's why that matters. A brain aneurysm can press on nerves near the eye when it enlarges. Those nerves help control eye movement, pupil size, and the muscles around the eyelid. When pressure starts building in that area, the first clue may be pain above or behind one eye. It may be intermittent. It may not feel like the worst pain ever. And that's exactly why people ignore it. If you develop new one-sided eye pain, especially with vision changes, eyelid changes, or facial symptoms, do not assume it's just sinus pressure. That assumption sends too many people in the wrong direction. Symptom number 9 is blurred vision or double vision. And this is one of the most important clues when an aneurysm is pressing on nerves near the eye. Carol in Phoenix was driving home from church when the lane lines started to look strange. She blinked hard, still strange. Then the traffic light seemed to split into two. She pulled over, waited a few minutes, and told herself she probably needed stronger glasses. That is such a common reaction. We tend to explain new symptoms using old problems. If you already wear glasses, every visual change gets blamed on your glasses. But sometimes the eyes are not the true issue. When an aneurysm presses on the nerves that control eye movement, the brain can receive mismatched visual signals. That can cause blurring, double vision, trouble focusing, or a feeling that one eye is not working right. People often blame dry eyes, cataracts, or fatigue, especially if the symptom comes and goes. But sudden vision change is never something to casually monitor for a week and hope it disappears. If the change is abrupt, unexplained, or happening alongside headache, eye pain, nausea, facial weakness, or confusion, it needs prompt medical evaluation. Your eyesight may be signaling a brain emergency, not an eye prescription issue. Symptom number 8 is nausea or vomiting that shows up with sudden head pain. And this is where many families get thrown off. Denise from St. Louis woke up nauseated on a Sunday morning and blamed leftover takeout from the night before. Then came the headache, then the sweating, then the thought that maybe she had a stomach bug. But the stomach wasn't the source of the problem. Her brain was. When pressure suddenly changes inside the skull or when a leak begins, the body may react with nausea and vomiting. That can make the whole episode seem gastrointestinal when the true problem is neurological. This is why context matters so much. Vomiting by itself is common and nonspecific, but vomiting paired with sudden severe headache, neck pain, light sensitivity, confusion, or collapse is a completely different situation. That combination should never be brushed off as food poisoning, flu, or something I ate. Older women in particular may downplay symptoms because they don't want to make a fuss or scare the family. But when nausea appears out of nowhere with a strange, intense headache, that's not the time for crackers, ginger ale, and waiting until morning. That is the time to think seriously about emergency care. Now we come to symptom number 7, the one most people miss. One drooping eyelid or one pupil suddenly looking larger than the other. Barbara from Pittsburgh noticed it while putting on mascara. Her left eyelid looked lazy, almost sleepy. Not dramatic. Not movie scene dramatic. Just a little off. She even joked that maybe she needed more coffee. Later that day, her sister pointed out that one of Barbara's pupils looked bigger. Barbara blamed the bathroom lighting. Then she blamed fatigue. Then she blamed allergies. By the next morning, she had a crushing headache and was in the emergency room. That tiny eyelid change had been the warning. Let me explain why this one matters so much, because once you understand the anatomy, you will never ignore it again. Certain aneurysms can press directly on the third cranial nerve, the nerve that helps control eyelid lifting and pupil response. That means one eyelid may droop, one pupil may enlarge, one eye may not move normally. And because it often happens on only one side, people think they slept wrong or rubbed the eye too hard. Families miss it because it looks subtle. But subtle neurological signs are still neurological signs. If one eyelid suddenly droops or one pupil looks different, that is not a wait-and-see symptom. Symptom number 6 is numbness or weakness on one side of the face, and this can be frighteningly easy to minimize. Gloria in Dallas noticed that water dribbled a little from one side of her mouth while brushing her teeth. Later, she felt a strange numb patch along her cheek, almost like Novocaine wearing off after a dental visit. She thought maybe she had irritated a nerve while sleeping. Then she wondered if it was Bell's palsy starting. Those explanations sound reasonable, but they can delay care. When an aneurysm grows or irritates nearby structures, facial sensation and facial movement can change before people realize what they're dealing with. This is one of those symptoms that should always make you stop, because your face does not suddenly go numb for no reason. Weakness, drooping, tingling, or loss of sensation on one side of the face may mean a nerve is being compressed, or it may point to a stroke-related event if bleeding has already begun. Either way, it deserves urgent attention. Do not compare one side to the other and talk yourself into saying, well, maybe it's always looked like that. If you suddenly feel different on one side of the face, assume it matters until a medical professional tells you otherwise. Symptom number 5 is stiff neck, and many people completely misunderstand why this happens. Susan in Nashville woke up with a brutal neck stiffness and thought she had slept wrong in her recliner after watching late-night television. She stretched. She used a heating pad. She even asked her grandson to rub her shoulders. But this wasn't a muscle problem from sleeping in an awkward position. It was a neurological warning sign. When blood leaks into the space around the brain, the tissues there become irritated. That irritation can create neck stiffness that feels very different from ordinary soreness. Though many people don't recognize the difference right away, the problem is that neck stiffness is common, so it gets dismissed. But neck stiffness paired with sudden headache, nausea, vomiting, light sensitivity, confusion, or collapse should raise immediate concern. The body is telling you something is wrong in the system surrounding the brain and spinal cord. People often say, "I thought it was just arthritis," or "I figured I pulled something gardening." And yes, many neck aches are harmless, but a sudden stiff neck that arrives with neurological symptoms is not a massage and ibuprofen situation. It may be part of a bleeding emergency that is developing minute by minute. Symptom number 4 is sensitivity to light, and that can sound harmless until you see it in real life. Evelyn in Scottsdale had what she thought was the world's worst migraine, except she had never really been a migraine person. She kept turning off lamps, closing blinds, and asking everyone to lower the brightness on their phones. Sunlight through the kitchen window felt unbearable. She thought maybe she had a migraine for the first time in her life. But in older adults, a brand new light sensitivity episode paired with sudden headache or neck pain needs a much more serious explanation ruled out before anyone settles on just a migraine. Light sensitivity happens because bleeding or irritation around the brain can make the nervous system react strongly to stimulation. The eyes themselves may be fine, but the brain no longer tolerates normal light well. That's why people squint, shut curtains, cover their eyes, or complain that even a television screen feels too bright. If this shows up with headache, vomiting, neck stiffness, or altered thinking, do not try to sleep it off. And please remember this. A woman over 60 having a brand new severe headache with light sensitivity is not automatically having a migraine. New symptoms late in life deserve new attention, not recycled assumptions. Symptom number 3 is confusion, trouble speaking, or suddenly seeming not like yourself. And this is where family members often become the first real witnesses. Patricia in Indianapolis was setting the table for dinner when she called the forks window keys. Everyone laughed at first because it sounded funny. Then she repeated herself. Then she stared for a second too long, as if her mind had slipped a gear. Her husband said she looked present but not fully connected. This kind of moment gets explained away as fatigue, low blood sugar, stress, or one of those senior moments people talk about too casually. But sudden confusion is never normal aging. When blood irritates the brain, or pressure starts affecting brain function, language and thinking can change fast. A person may seem dazed, she may use the wrong word, struggle to finish a sentence, forget where she is, or respond slowly in a way that feels deeply out of character. Families often wait because the person is still awake and still talking, but awake does not mean stable. If someone suddenly becomes confused, strangely quiet, slurred, forgetful, or disconnected, especially with headache, neck pain, vomiting, or visual symptoms, treat it as urgent. The brain does not improvise random glitches without a reason. Symptom number 2 is seizure, fainting, or sudden collapse. And when this happens, there is no more room for hesitation. Sharon from Louisville was standing in her kitchen pouring iced tea when the glass slipped out of her hand. Her daughter heard the crash and found her on the floor, unconscious for a few moments, then confused and terrified. The family later said the collapse came out of nowhere, but when they looked back, the warning signs had actually started earlier that day. A weird headache, bright light bothering her eyes, nausea, a little confusion, then the collapse. Families often remember the collapse but forget the breadcrumbs that came before it. A seizure or sudden loss of consciousness means the brain is under major stress, and that is an emergency every single time. Do not try to drive the person yourself while hoping traffic cooperates. Do not let her rest for a bit on the couch. Do not wait for the primary care office to open on Monday morning. Call 911. Emergency teams can begin stabilizing, monitoring, and moving faster than a family member in a private car ever could. When collapse enters the picture, time matters in a way that people only understand afterward. And afterward is exactly when you do not want to learn that lesson. And now we come to symptom. Number 1. The one nobody forgets once they've seen it. The sudden, explosive headache. Often described as the worst headache of my life. But here's the part too many people don't know. Sometimes a major rupture is preceded by a smaller warning leak, often called a sentinel headache. That means a woman may have a sudden, unusual, severe headache days or even a week or two before the catastrophic event. She may call it the strangest headache she has ever had. She may say it felt like a pop, a burst, or a pressure wave. And then she may get talked out of seeking help. That happened to Marianne in suburban Atlanta. She was 69, active, independent, the kind of grandmother who still drove everyone to soccer practice and remembered every dentist appointment in the family. One Friday, she developed a headache so sudden, she sat down right on the garage step. It eased somewhat after an hour, and by evening she was tired but functional. She did not go in. She did not want to waste an ER visit. 9 days later, while folding laundry, she grabbed her head and screamed. This time, it was the full rupture. That earlier headache had been the warning, and it was the only warning she got. This is why I need you to hear me clearly. Chronic everyday headaches are usually not caused by an unruptured brain aneurysm. Ordinary tension headaches are common. Migraines are common. But a sudden explosive headache that peaks fast, feels utterly different, or arrives with vomiting, stiff neck, light sensitivity, confusion, eyelid droop, facial weakness, seizure, or collapse is a medical emergency. You do not grade it at home. You do not compare it to last month's sinus pressure. You do not wait for your daughter to get off work and drive you in later. You call 911 immediately. That decision can save your brain, your independence, and your life. Now let's put this all together, because information only helps if you can actually use it. The 10 early symptoms we covered are pain above or behind one eye, blurred or double vision, nausea or vomiting with sudden head pain, one drooping eyelid or one enlarged pupil, facial numbness or weakness, stiff neck, sensitivity to light, confusion or trouble speaking, seizure or sudden collapse, and the sudden severe warning headache that may come before a major rupture. Not every person will have every symptom. Some will have only one. Some will have a strange combination that seems unrelated until you step back and see the pattern. And that pattern is what families miss. They treat each symptom like a separate little inconvenience instead of one neurological story unfolding in real time. The eye pain gets blamed on strain. The droopy eyelid gets blamed on poor sleep. The nausea gets blamed on lunch. The confusion gets blamed on age. The headache gets blamed on stress. But the body is not sending random messages. It is often pointing to one central problem. When multiple symptoms show up together, especially suddenly, do not let ordinary explanations talk you out of appropriate urgency. Familiar explanations are comforting, but they can also be deadly. I also want to speak directly to the women watching this, because many of you were raised to endure discomfort quietly. You took care of children with fevers, husbands with the flu, parents with heart disease, and you learned to put your own symptoms last. You don't want to be dramatic. You don't want to inconvenience anyone. You don't want to spend all day in an emergency room only to be told it was nothing. I understand that completely. But when it comes to possible aneurysm symptoms, "I didn't want to bother anyone" is one of the most heartbreaking sentences a family can hear after the fact. So here is the rule, and I want you to remember it. If the symptom is sudden, severe, unusual, one-sided, or paired with neurological changes, you escalate. If it is the worst headache of your life, you call 911. If there is fainting, seizure, collapse, confusion, or major visual change, you call 911. If there is a new drooping eyelid, one enlarged pupil, one-sided facial numbness, or unexplained eye pain with headache, you seek urgent medical attention the same day. The price of overreacting is inconvenience. The price of underreacting can be catastrophic bleeding in the brain. And please share this with the people you love, because the woman having the aneurysm symptoms may not be the one who recognizes them. It may be her husband who notices her eyelid. It may be her daughter who hears the wrong words coming out during dinner. It may be a friend at Bible study who sees her squinting in pain and saying she feels different. The right observer at the right moment can change everything. Families save lives when they understand what they are seeing. And ignorance in moments like this is not neutral. It is dangerous. If this video helped you, stay with this channel, because my goal is simple. Give you clear, practical medical information you can actually use before a crisis, not after one. Brain aneurysms are frightening, yes, but fear is not the point. Recognition is the point. Fast action is the point. Protecting your future is the point. You do not need to memorize every rare disease on Earth, but you do need to recognize the symptoms that should never be ignored, especially when they involve the brain. Take care of yourself, trust sudden changes, and I'll see you in the next video.